Good morning, Devils fans. We are talking about one of the longest tenured members of the Devils organization and currently one of our assistant coaches, as today's spotlight is on Sergei Brylin. Born January 13th, 1974 in Moscow, he started off playing with the CSKA Moscow in the Soviet League before Brylin would be selected at the 1992 NHL entry draft in the second round, 42nd overall, by the only NHL organization he would know, the New Jersey Devils. After that, he would return to would then be known as Russia to finish out another 2 seasons with the CSKA Moscow. For the 94-95 season, Brylin would be brought over to North America, starting off with the Albany River Rats, where he played 63 games before making his NHL debut on February 17, 1995, in an eventual tie against the New York Islanders. His first NHL point and goal would come in his 4th game on February 27th against Patrick Waugh in a win over the Montreal Canadiens, a game where he would also record his first NHL assist. He would play in every game for the remainder of that regular season, putting up 6 goals, 8 assists for 14 points in 26 regular season games, before moving into his first NHL playoffs. Brylin would play in a majority of those games, scoring 1 goal, 2 assists in 12 playoff games. That goal and one of those assists coming in the cup-clinching game against the Detroit Red Wings. While Brylin is not your superstar stud, he was a pivotal depth piece on that run for that first Stanley Cup for the New Jersey Devils. He'd play 50 games the following season, scoring 4 goals, 5 assists, but the Devils would ultimately miss the playoffs. The following 2 years, he'd bounce back and forth between the NHL and AHL, playing 29 games in the NHL in 96-97, scoring only 2 goals, 2 assists, and 18 games the year after with 2 goals, 3 assists. For the rest of his career, he'd be a fixture in New Jersey and would make the playoffs in every season, except for 2004-2005, obviously, with the lockout, where he went back over and played in Russia, but getting a bit ahead of ourselves there. In 1998-99, we had a disappointing playoff exit, even if it was Brylin's most productive on a point-per-game basis, where he had 3 games and an assist in 5 playoff games. The following season, he would score his most playoff points with 3 goals, 5 assists in 17 games, where he would go on to win his second Stanley Cup with the New Jersey Devils. 2000-2001, we would see Brylin set career highs in goals, assists, and obviously points, with 23 goals, 29 assists for 52 points in 75 regular season games. He'd play in 20 playoff games that year, 3 goals, 4 assists, before eventually losing in Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals to the Colorado Avalanche. Skipping ahead a couple seasons, Brylin would once again find himself lifting the Stanley Cup for a 3rd time, after 1 goal, 3 assists in 19 playoff games, one of those assists being on the game-winning goal of Game 1 in the finals. Although he wouldn't lift the cup again, he'd play all 82 games of the next 4 seasons, making the playoffs in each and every one of them. After the 07-08 season, the Devils would opt to not renew a new contract with Brylin, but he was not done playing quite yet, so he would move back to Russia, where he'd play in the KHL for 4 seasons. The first 3 with SKA St. Petersburg, and finally closing out his career with the Metallurg Novokinsk. Totally butchering all these Russian pronunciations, my apologies. Across 13 seasons with the Devils, Brylin would play 765 regular season games, scoring 129 goals, 179 assists for 308 points, and 109 playoff games with 15 goals, 19 assists for 34 points. Now this would put him, I found one article that had different rankings here, but looking it up myself, I came in with 11th all-time for points with the Devils. The article said 10th. Or all-time for games played, and 19th in points. The article said 18th. So 1 spot difference. I don't know if maybe I counted some guys' points with other teams, or they didn't, or whatever, but yeah. I got 11th all-time, games played, 19th in points for the New Jersey Devils. After finishing up his playing career, Brylin would waste no time in returning to his adopted home in New Jersey, returning back from Russia, for in the 2012-2013 season, Brylin would sign on as a team consultant with the Albany Devils. Very next season, he would become their assistant coach, which he continued to do from 2013 through 2017. He would then remain on as an assistant coach when the team moved to Bennington, would transition to an assistant coach for the 2019-2020 and the 2020-21 seasons, before moving back to the assistant coach position when the team moved to Utica in 2021-22, where they would then go on to win the North Division title, have the best record in the Eastern Conference, and set the AHL record for most consecutive wins to start a season with 13. Although the location changed, he remained with the team for a decade before he was finally given a chance to return to the only NHL team he has known, the New Jersey Devils, as an assistant coach on August 18th, 2022. Now, I obviously skipped around a whole bunch for his playing career here as a Devil. He was never that star-studded piece. He was always the depth piece. But as we all know, Sarge has been a mainstay in this organization for quite a while. I know I was always talking about this being a very chonky episode, but I didn't want to get into the absolute nitty-gritty of his playing career, as this is a coaching spotlight. But there's no way you can touch on Sarge about his playing career here. And obviously, I will get into a little bit of tidbits on that as well, just here in a second. So on the ice, as I was saying, Sarge was a Swiss Army knife player. He played every forward position, both wing, center, even had a game at defense. You know, like I said, he was never the big gun, but he did everything you asked of him, and was an absolute workhorse of a depth piece. As a coach, the Devils essentially had in the sky position as he watches games from the press box and will relay what he is seeing to the guys behind the bench, in the game, in the locker room, post-game, and all of that. In practice, he will work one-on-one with the players. He's actually given particular credit in helping bolster Sharangovich's game, which we saw flourish this past season. Obviously, we moved on from him, but that's because the Sharks saw what Sharangovich has grown into and could continue to grow into, which helped us get such a piece like Toffoli. And Sarge is also, I believe, in part working with Miguel in crafting our penalty kill system. Off the ice, Brylin has made Jersey his home. He has a place in Short Hills with his wife, Alina, and their 3 children, Anna, Fyodor, and Maria. Second child, Fyodor. Hopefully I pronounced your name correct. Going forward, given how successful things were last year, and from Sarge's track record within this organization, I'm convinced he's here for the long haul. I don't think it even matters what happens with the rest of the coaching staff or even management. It feels like Sarge is a mainstay in this organization, no matter what. As far as his actual coaching role, he's the eye in the sky guy for now. Given the likely success of this team going forward, there may not be a spot that opens up right away for him. But heck, even after one of our better regular seasons and on the way to a cup run, we fired a coach. I don't see that happening in the rough this season, but you never know how these things play out with coaches, like I said. But he's shown no issues being patient and working his way up. So I know eventually we will see Sarge behind our bench, and I think when that does eventually happen, he'll stick there for years. Now into my top 3. With basically every other coach, I had to really pull teeth to try and find good ones for these. With Sarge, there was too much to choose from, so this is where I ended up landing. Number 3, his dedication to this organization. He was drafted here. He played in our AHL affiliate for a number of seasons. He played here for over a decade as a player. He remained on as a coach after that. Even though we didn't re-sign him, he went back to Russia. He still came back to return to us, where he then has been coaching now for over a decade within the organization. The guy is a Devil through and through. There is no denying that. The guy's love and admiration for this organization is shown, and I hope he feels the organization loves and has that admiration back. Given that he is now with the big club as a coach, even if it is the eye in the sky spot and not behind the bench quite yet, I think he knows how much he is appreciated here, not just by the org itself, but by the fans as well. Number 2, going to go with an actual specific play for this, as I want to get at least one of these in here in my top 3, and that is going to be that 95 Cup final goal And although it was not the game winner, it did give us a 2-goal lead and was the nail in the coffin that caused the Brendan Byrne Arena, at least what it was known at the time, to absolutely explode. And as there was just over half a period in the third to play, and knowing the team and goalie we had, there was no chance we were giving up a 2-goal lead at that point. The fans knew it, and so the place was bumping for the complete end of that game. Instead of a bit of nail biting with a 1-goal lead, which, I mean, I remember back in that time how confident I was the moment we got a 1-goal lead in any game, given the team and goalie that we had. 2-goal lead, game 4, closing it out. Yeah, there was no chance we were giving that up. It was basically 10 straight minutes of celebration for our first Stanley Cup. Wild, raucous, it was amazing. There was no way I could not include this goal. And finally, number 1, and I want to talk a little bit on this one. He is one of 5 guys to be a part of all 3 Stanley Cup winning Devils teams, and the only one of those 5 to not have his number retired. Obviously, the other 4 being Marty, Stevens, Niedermayer, Danico, and then Sarge as the 5th guy to have his name as a Devil on all 3 cups. So, personally, maybe this is a hot take for some, maybe this isn't, I think Sarge should not have his number retired as a Devil. I do think he should be a first inductee into our Ring of Honor whenever we start expanding that out beyond, just the guy that brought us to Jersey. Obviously, someone like Lou probably should be thrown in there, Zajac even, but Sarge should have his honor given in the Ring of Honor, but not be retired. I know Elias is retired, only having 2 cups, and so you could argue, hey, Sarge has the 3rd one, why isn't he? Well, Sarge isn't, games played up in the top 3 with games played. He's not the all-time greatest forward. Presumably, Jack might end up taking that title from Patty eventually. I know that, but greatest forward as a Devil is still Elias until Jack gets a cup, at least 1, if not 2 cups, with his time here. But this is about Sarge, right? So his dedication to the organization, cups, even if he only had 2 of those cups. I mean, draft, stayed here, wouldn't play for any other NHL organization, went back to his home country, then came back here, is now a full-time resident here in Jersey, coached in our affiliate, worked his way up. He's now with the big org. He's probably going to be here for another decade. The guy deserves it. I know the organization hasn't expanded that Ring of Honor yet, but they really need to, and Sarge has to be a first inductee. I don't see it any other way. Reason a number retired candidate is because I really like retired numbers are. I mean, it's truly our greatest of greats. I know some people even have issues with Danico up there, which is crazy to me. I mean, he is Mr. Devil, day 1 Devil, as far as actual playing time goes, sticking in with the organization after that, I think he was a no-brainer as well. The other guys are just super obvious with Patty, Needs, Stevens, and of course Marty. But yeah, I just don't think Sarge obviously hit the on-ice impact directly, goals, assists, those type of things. Even if he was the workhorse and engine behind all, he didn't. He still wasn't, even a Lemieux type who absolutely dominated and took over. Just, he was, but he should be recognized in the Ring of Honor for that. So I really want to hear what you guys have to think. Do you think he's a retirement? If you don't think he's to hear why. And just any memories you have in all of his years here. I mean, 95, but the other 2 cups, absolutely. And obviously, his entire playing career here was one of my favorites. On as a coach after for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. It's just a great story, and I can't wait to see how he continues to play out his career here. That episode today, it actually wasn't as chunky as I thought it was going to be. We are into, so let's get through it, burn out the rest of this work week, and get back into the weekend, because after that, we're getting Devils hockey next week. We are 1 week away. It's only rookies reporting for training camp, but because once that happens, discuss. Boom, boom, boom. Things are going to start happening real quick. And I can't wait to start talking about all of